Yes, it's.
Mine was mostly gone, except the north side of the buildings that didn't get set.
Okay. All right. Call this March 28th meeting of the Riley County Commission to order. Please, everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Yeah, good morning. On this last meeting of March, seem to be just cruising right along here in 2024.
Too fast.
Yeah. Start off with some public comment this morning. Not seeing anybody up on YouTube, on Zoom, YouTube and Zoom. So we'll move to the chamber. Does anybody have any public comment this morning?
I do. Also, I have one.
Okay.
Lady lost her space. She printed it up and asked us.
Oh, okay.
She asked me to hand these out.
Okay. State your name and you got 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Good morning. My name is Dale Blassie. My wife Roxanne and I reside at 5312 Terra Heights Drive. First of all, thank you for your public service. The issue I would like to bring forth, our perspective is the whole issue of Airbnbs in basically private residential neighborhoods. The perception that we see is that the rural area in which we live is rural, which in fact is not the case. We're fairly close together on Terra Heights Drive. Personally, over the last 3 years, I have called into the Riley County Police 2 times, probably should have called in another 2 as well, with respect to people who basically reserve a space for them to enjoy their various festivities and parties while we as residents on that street try to get along and do what we do as neighbors with one another. I encourage you to get on Google and Google the whole Airbnb issue throughout the country. This is an issue that is being dealt with everywhere. Now, please understand, I have nothing against one's use of private property to enrich them for their family selves. That's perfectly all-American. However, that issue is stepping on our toes as private residents who live there every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Marian Brandenburg, and excuse me, I live with my husband at 5247 Terra Heights, and our property is directly adjoining the Airbnb at 5303 Terra Heights. And so we have had some impact on our living in our property there because of the Airbnb, mainly trespassing. And we have posted no trespassing signs, which really seemed like a fraughtless effort. As Mr. Blasey was saying, we've had a number of occasions of trespassing and not called the police, but we finally did call the police on the 15th of March, and Officer Wagenblast came and talked with us, but children were coming over into our property, into our orchard, and we're concerned about damage to our trees because we've seen children hanging off the limbs, plus whatever potential liability that could be to us, even though they would be the ones trespassing. We went over to try to speak with adults, and no one would answer the door. And it appeared as though the children were there without adult supervision. I can't confirm that 100%, but that's what it seemed like. And so I do have a copy of your land regulations that cover the short-term lease agreement, short-term rental. And it's interesting, there is a little part here that comments about pets, but nowhere do I see that it's addressed in any way about children. whether, at what age they could be left unsupervised, or even if they should be left unsupervised. And so, it's a concern and we see it ongoing. And every weekend, now tomorrow's Friday and the Easter weekend, we just see an increased stress level. Like, okay, what are we going to be dealing with next door at this time? So I do appreciate very much your consideration. And we look forward to hopefully seeing some kind of resolution to this issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Troy Coberly, and I want to also thank you for your service. But I do want to recognize two employees that I dealt with in the last couple of weeks that have done very good job in their positions, and that would be Michelle Horstmeyer, dealing with emergency management and fire permits. I really appreciate her efforts to not only make quick and timely burning permits accessible, but also giving updates of saying, you know, let's try to wrap this up before April starts in agriculture burning. And also Lisa Daly, dealing with planning and zoning. I think she's done very well as far as some of the issues and questions that we requested. I would also like to quickly talk about, as you know, we've requested to go on to the agenda for planning and zoning. Bring up some recommendations for the short-term rentals. And I think that's something that's impacted our neighborhood in Terra Heights, as well as a few of the other neighborhoods up in University Park. And I think there's some of the things that are getting out of hand and getting out of hand across the country. And I'm not totally sure of who's familiar, but there's been incidents down in College Hills, down in Wichita, where short-term rentals have been turned into party havens for young teens, which have turned into gunfights and eventually injuries and I believe some death. So that's something that we want to look at to see if we can modify and do some recommendations. Another major point, dealing with Terra Heights that's specific to a few of these residential communities is the use of public sewage that's paid for and controlled pretty much by the members of that community. Recently finding out after University Park have gone through their own sewage problems and finding out that their lagoon system is being estimated at close to $2 million for putting that system in. A lot of us in the Terra Heights area are concerned because of the excessive use in these short-term rentals, causing the potential of having our lagoons either reworked or some additional costs that we're not expecting. So that's some of the huge factors of not only the normal nuisance, but also major impact on our financial beings as far as neighbors in that community. Look forward to presenting the April 8th meeting on their agenda, and look forward to speaking to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Have anybody else for public comment this morning? I'm only just allowing the one.
I just forgot to mention that when you file a trespassing and the police come out, you can only actually file a charge on the second offense. And because of the revolving door
Could
nature,
you step up to the microphone?
you can actually only file a trespassing charge on the second offense, is what we were told. And because of the revolving door nature of the Airbnb, they're never there the second time to actually file an offense. So that leaves us really with no ability. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and close off public comment for this morning. We're going to move on to commission comments. We'll talk about Commissioner McKinley.
Okay, Monday noon was the intergovernmental meeting. RCPD Director Pete gave statistics on Fake Patty's Day. Violation numbers were way up from last year. Somebody brought a point that some people said it's no different than a football weekend, but they showed that the numbers are many times what a football weekend is. Also, Josh Brewer from Habitat for Humanity was talking about the land trust presentation, what he kind of given to us recently. Final speaker was Grant Hill with an economic impact statement from Kansas State, what the economic numbers of jobs and dollars that affect Manhattan and Kansas as a whole. Monday evening, the Historical Society had an event at the Wareham Hall. Blade Manges. I don't know. That's right down the name. He's the one pushing, kind of helped got started this whole Wareham Hall renovation. And he had a presentation showing kind of the history of the building, some of the early versions. It was really interesting about all the stuff. And then kind of gave us a tour through all the dark halls and basements. And there's some, the way all these buildings are put together, there's all kinds of tunnels and stuff back between them. He said there is and they've got a fan that's this big boom that blows the air through it. But also he said there's an air tunnel, major vent that goes from under the stage all the way up to the back, and he's gone through it.
Really?
I didn't. It was a real interesting presentation showing all, and then showing what they're planning on doing, basically gutting the building and starting over. Because a lot of the stuff just doesn't work, and it's not. A lot of the stuff isn't the original building. It's been remodeled several times, so it's not original. But that was pretty interesting. And then, I had something else. I didn't get stuff written up today. And then Tuesday evening was the Riley City Council, and Officer Teedy gave an update on some of the statistics for North County, because they'd asked him about how those statistics, and most of the things, most of the numbers were down over the last few years, although some of them can be a huge percentage jump because there's not that many, burglaries in that area. But he said, talking about traffic, one of the main areas that's been an accident is from the Riley on Tuttle, from Riley Turn down to the dam. And there's going to be increased enforcement of it. And I noticed this morning, he said there was one, RCPD was sitting there with their lights flashing. And it did slow down the traffic going through. And makes people quit passing on the wrong places too. And then yesterday, Mr. Coverley came in and talked about short-term rentals. Had a good discussion. They've got a lot of good points. They do have a meeting. They're going to meet at the planning board in April to go over some stuff. And as I explained to him, I said, short-term rentals are kind of a new thing. We're all learning, and we've got some regulations set up, and we probably need to work on a few more fine tuning on.
Yeah, probably do.
I know and I told him, we had that. I said it was good timing because I saw that Amanda had her presentation today. So I don't know about the others. I know he's planning on staying to hear what she has to say too. That's all I got.
Okay. Well, let's see, Monday afternoon, I too attended the intergovernmental luncheon at K-State Union. Brian Pete did talk about, he talked about statistics. McKinley said, he did say that the cost for the weekend to the RCPD is about $37,000, which is quite an amount. That would be plus probably the salaries and all those kinds of things too. So that's a sizable amount of money. So I don't know what they're going to do about it, but be interesting to see how that works, because he's not in favor of continuing it in the neighborhoods. So, and then Josh Brewer, when he said, Director of Habitat, gave a presentation that we had seen. Grant Hill Talked about the economic impact study for fiscal year 23. They determined it to be 2.3 billion for the state of Kansas, their impact. No, I'm going to have to get with him. I'm not for sure how they determined those numbers. It was just, astounding how they come up with the statistics. So, but it's from all the various K-State entities throughout the state. Their next meeting is going to be on April 22nd. Tuesday, I had another knee procedure at the surgical center. I hope that's the last one. Most of the day and evening were spent recuperating because I couldn't even walk after that. So, but it's okay now. Wednesday had another PT appointment. Went over to the agenda and documents for today's meeting. And then last night I attended choir practice in the evening for Sunday services. That's it for me.
Ready for business? Nope. I guess you get to speak, don't you?
I'll try
One at a time.
if that helps. Monday evening, I had a Teams call with fellow NACO veterans and military committee member from Spokane County, Washington. I had Christian Bishop from the chamber also join me on the call to discuss some military and veteran services programs that they're working on there and seeing how they may be able to incorporate or not incorporate here. Had a really good dialogue. There's some transitional programs, veteran service officers as a potential, and just career services and transitional skills programs that could help and could be of real value here in Riley County. Tuesday afternoon, had the second meeting of our CSR team at work at Florence. Got some initial rankings from a committee survey that we did in-house based off of those responses to come up with about 5 different things we're going to try to work on this year, including adopting families for the holidays, doing some volunteer work. Habitat for Humanity actually was number 1 on that list. Continued education on our VTO, which is a volunteer's day off. So kind of a revolving day that everybody can have. Nobody knows that they have it. So got to work on that one. Putting together both a voter registration drive and potentially organizing some people to volunteer for elections. Was not my idea. It came up, but I told them I would produce some information and some educational materials to help with that as we get started on it. Of course, that'll be later on down the road. And just reviewing some sponsorship opportunities in and around the community as well. Also on Tuesday, had our March Board of Directors meeting with Pawnee Mental Health. As you can imagine, with a lot of transitional things going on there, a lot's going on. Got a Chief Financial Officer's report. Bob's going to be retiring from that position, so they're going to be looking for a new officer. As you know, obviously with the transition with Robin to Mike happening here this next month. Got a Chief Executive Officer's report. That'll be the last one for Robin, and then that transition will happen. Lots going on there. Got a couple program reports, therapy services, their DEI group as well. Marketing development provided a report. A couple of committee oversight reports, a review from the February 24 financials, biannual review of the investments, and then just a review of the 990 report. A couple other things that we approved, limits for directors and officers, has to do with professional liabilities. It's an insurance thing. Apparently, it was news to me. Mental Health Month is coming up. So distributing sign-up sheets for that and just appointing committee chairs and members. So we typically do this time of the year. And we'll meet again at the Pawnee Celebration, annual celebration, which is on April 23rd. Usually coincides with Casey's DA. So whenever, at least the county people never get to attend. So they moved it around this year. So should be able to attend that this year. That's about it for me. Now we can go to business.
Got a lot of it. Need a motion to approve bid submitted for professional turf products of Lenexa, Kansas, mower in the amount of $70,415. This was the only bid received.
Okay.
That meets specs. Get a motion?
Oh, do you
Do you have
I didn't know if you wanted any comment. No. Okay.
I would make a motion to approve moving forward with the purchase of the mower from Professional Turf Products from Lenexa, Kansas. as it meets the required specifications.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move forward with the purchase of the mower from Professional Turf Products from Lenexa, Kansas, as it does meet the required specifications. All in favor?
Aye.
Need a motion to accept the quote for one precast concrete box culvert structures from McPherson Concrete in the amount of $71,044.26 to be funded by Public Works budget, replacement of structure on Ober Road.
I move to accept the quote for precast box from McPherson Concrete for the Public Works budget.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the quote for one precast concrete box culvert structures from McPherson Concretes from the Public Works budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Need a motion to accept quote for one precast concrete box culvert from McPherson Concrete in the amount of $124,127.28 funded from sales tax project budget replacement at Wasida and Wildcat Creek roads.
Okay, I would make a motion to accept the quote for one precast concrete box culvert from McPherson Concrete in the amount of $124,127.28 from the Public Works budget for Cedar and Wildcat Creek roads.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the quote for one precast concrete box from McPherson Concrete, amount of $124,127.28 from the Public Works budget for La Cita and Wildcat Creek roads. All in favor?
Aye.
Need a motion to approve the tax roll correction.
I move to approve the tax roll correction.
I would second that.
It moved and seconded to approve the tax roll corrections as listed. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair, please sign. Yeah. Next, I need a motion to approve the advisory board appointments.
I'd make a motion to approve advisory board appointments for Hunters Island Water District, for the Museum Board of Trustees and the Public Health Advisory Council. It's presented.
Second.
It moved and seconded to approve the advisory board appointment letters and resolutions for Hunters Island Water District, Museum Board of Trustees, and the Public Health Advisory Council. All in favor?
Aye.
All three sign, please. You. Next, commissioners, I have Raleigh County Personnel Actions Form for Kayla Ward, new hires in EMT and EMS ambulance department. Travis Ball, new hire, volunteer firefighter stipend, Raleigh County Fire District Number 1. Maribeth Davis, on-call juvenile intake officer, Community Corrections Department, separation of service. And Megan Lewis, promotion as interim director, Community Corrections Department. All three, please sign.
No, black. You need a black one. There's a black one. If you get out.
I used to keep an extra one in there just in case, but I must have used it.
You can just keep this one.
Oh, this is. No shortage of pins.
Kind of, they get confiscated from other people.
Yeah. That's from Rich. You wanna, I have the black one like that. You would rather have that. I just like these guys. In the sevens.
Yeah, once you get a pin style you like.
Yeah, because I replaced the cartridges on these.
Refills.
They come in all sorts of colors too. You can get green and red. How does that? That one's gonna work.
But them, you know, either end.
One side pull off.
It's a light. There's something.
It's a light.
Looks like it's got some, it's supposed to have some little light up there. I don't know what.
Yeah, it does look like it. Huh, I didn't figure it out.
No.
Oh.
And then Commissioner, you already made the motion to certify the election results of the privilege preference primary. These are the certification sheets, please sign all three.
Stu? I heard a lot of comments about that election in the public. That was a waste of time.
Took a
And
lot of
money.
time, that's for sure, and a lot of money.
And what was that for anyway? I've heard that. Oh. Told me to direct the comments to the state legislature.
Legislature and the governor.
We didn't change.
We did.
We were decided the state didn't need that $5 million.
That's right.
Any changes to the minutes, commissioners?
I didn't have anything.
Let's see anything. Okay, let's see. Well, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as written for March 25th, 2024.
Second.
They moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the Riley County Commission meeting March 25th, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Now the tentative agendas, the commissioners. Any items for next week's press conference? Okay, it's about time for Mr. Meyer.
Yeah. Morning, Commission. Corey Meyer, ITGIS Director here with a staff update. I will try to move through some things quickly as I want to bring something to your attention that's changing every day. And even though it seems like it's out there ways, it'll be here quickly. But as far as in the IT department, we have moving through our last departments to get into Windows 11, which is the attorney's office, Public Works, Noxious Suite. We working through some phone changes and hardware changes. I mentioned before terminology that they call dispatchable location, which is associated with 911. So we're still working on that. I'll try to get this color.
Thank you. Other direction for us.
Yeah.
It's a command.
Yeah, you're on page 25.
There we go. All right. The budget so far this year, everything is coming in higher than expected. Also, we've already had 2 of our major vendors change their licensing structure to concurrent now. So, and in doing so, one of the companies was bought out and doubled our licensing cost. Was one that we were paying $6,000. Now we're paying $12,000 on one. So that number is not so hard to swallow, but we have another one that's gone up $18,000. It's not much I can do other than just swallow it because you've got to have Microsoft licensing. We have to have server licensing. We have to have those pieces. Those are necessary for what we do. Unless we want to go back to paper, which maybe wouldn't be all that bad. So I, again, then with budget, looking at ways that we can strengthen things out, change some things when it comes to 2025, 26, 27, where we can keep things as flat as possible. Fortunately, I believe that now the technology is becoming more of a increase in cost than a savings in cost is where we're at. Security, and you're going to hear me talk about that here in just a minute in regards to like our Microsoft licensing. So our current Microsoft licensing, Microsoft changed their licensing models, so we have to change what licensing we use, and in regards, then that's going to create a $20,000 increase in our licensing as far as for Microsoft goes. Some good to that though is that we get a lot more security features with that licensing change that we do. We'll get a lot more control of our devices. So we will be able to do a lot more in regards to protecting the county and its data when we make this change. So in the next couple of weeks, I'll be coming back with that information and approval to move forward. Doing some explanation in there, and what we will get out of that licensing does replace some of the products we already have. So we do have a lot of offset in there, but as far as my staff goes, we will be learning 2 new products throughout this year, along with the other duties that we have and projects that are going on. I won't get into any details on those because those are all related around security. And if you do want more detail, then I would ask for an executive session to discuss them in depth and what they are.
Can we stop his report? He's already spent $44,000.
Yeah. You were doing
Got the
that.
solution, just go to paper.
Yeah.
Take it out on the trees.
The EMS headquarters.
Corey.
Yes.
I was going to ask you, those increases in cost, are they immediate or are they going to be for the 25 budget?
They will be immediate for this 2024 budget.
Oh, okay.
I have all of those changes covered within my budget from some spending ahead that I did out of the 23 budget. When we got in this situation with the courts and the situation that they had, and then they had to increase their security and get to Windows 11, I bought their machines ahead of time. So they would have been our desktop replacement this year. I was able to get those purchased at the end of last year so that when we brought them back up and connect back to the state, they met all the security requirements. So that money
I won't have to spend this year, and I'll use that to cover these licensing increases. And then for the 2025 budget, we'll figure out where I get those put in there, but it's all covered under my budget, just through some ways and things we're able to work out. So, yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
EMS headquarters, we've got the fiber moved. The existing fiber that connected the main health department and FCRC swooped out underneath of the parking lot area. And so when they start construction of that and groundwork, they would tear that out. We have moved that to a completely new path. So we are now going to be in the process of getting that fiber out, and then we will be out of the way for construction to get started. We also put in a temporary internet connection at the current EMS building, because again, there was another piece of fiber that then went from FCRC out through that parking lot and under the road over to EMS. So we have moved all of our necessary networking and connections out of the way so that that project can begin without any disruption. Elections, we have all the equipment that we need ordered, sitting and waiting and ready to go when we get green light up there. Adabus, the same, all of their equipment, cameras and so forth have been ordered, and we are waiting when we can get over there with their construction they have going on. Camera hardware upgrade we are doing throughout the entire county. We are replacing 105 cameras. That is due to security related, and I'll leave it at that. And one of the great things about that we use the 410 schedule in my office is that staff has been able to work ahead of the 8 o'clock when public comes in and make those changes in offices and public areas before. So my staff is taking advantage of those early hours in the morning when they get here and getting work done, so we're not disrupting offices and public. So again, love the 410 schedule, and it works well for us. We're also able to go in and make network changes. We're able to replace PCs. We're able to do a lot of that work instead of throughout the day. So we find a great benefit to use that schedule. We both the IT and GIS staff were out assisting with elections last week. A duty and a service that we love to do. We really do. We enjoy it, and the processes and the changes and the technology side of things that have increased the workload for elections is interesting. At times, all you can do is just smile and just grin and go on. That's it. So, yeah. But our imagery flight got completed. I think last time I was in and talked with you, we were trying to find that window between the live fire exercises at Fort Riley. We did find those windows finally. We appreciate them giving us some room to go in there and get done. It was interesting to hear some of the commentary and so forth about, again, as I said, well, you could fly at a higher height if you want because we're doing small fire. And it's like, no, how about we won't fly at all? So, hey.
Oh, that was bigger than we thought.
Yeah. Whoops. Yeah. No, so Eagle View did a great job. They had 2 planes ready. That way, when they got a moment, few hours, they could get in and flew 2 planes for us to get in and get done. So we got good imagery already coming in. We're previewing it as it is. We're working on getting training set up with Anna and her staff. They are really busy over there in their appeal times, but it's looking good. We really, really like the imagery that we got. We're really happy, especially the tools that come with it. That's what's going to really benefit the staff. The piece I will bring to your attention a little bit here in my last 5 minutes is House Bill 2842 and now Senate Bill 291. These 2 pieces are moving quickly. We call it like a Kansas fire there. I'll read a little bit of the short title and then tell you what is the direct effects that we understand. This is the legislative modernization, as they call it. I would have had in the package, but things have come so quickly in finding and so forth. But transferring all cybersecurity services under the Chief Information Technology Officer for each branch of government, creating Chief Information Security Officers within the judicial, legislative branches, requiring a Chief Information Security Officer to be appointed by the Attorney General Kansas Bureau of Investigation, Secretary of State, State Treasurer, and Insurance Commissioner, requiring that those chief information security officers implement certain minimum security standards, requiring the Information Technology Executive Council develop a plan to integrate executive branch information technology services under the state. But what did I just read? What I just read to you was that currently the state and their various branches is what I would call siloed, with a chief information technology over each one. And the various branches that make decisions and implementations for what they want to do, which might be related to courts or elections. Now they're bringing that all into where they have kind of a overseeing the top, and then the different branches have, and they report back, so that they are making changes in security decisions and technology decisions together. They're also going to work off of what's called NIST, where they are going to have to meet certain levels of security standards. In short, the big one that's obvious that's been brought to our attention is that, as it states, that the courts completely taken over by the state of Kansas as far as all of their technology, hardware, and IT services. That is coming from a consensus of our understanding through talking with all the other, our IT throughout the state of Kansas, as well as many court administrators, is that they are all, as it states, all IT equipment and support will be transferred from county entities to the state by July 2027.
They're gonna pay for it?
Yeah, they are already appropriating monies, $15 million at a time. They've already put a $65 million ear tag with this and moving monies and things quickly. Yeah. Every day there's new emails that we are getting on these. We're trying to follow. We are all watching online. They're talking about it daily right now. They just did again yesterday. The House passed it 118-5. The state just flew right through as well with very little opposition other than amendments and so forth that they wanted to. They mention all branches in there. They mention everything from, elections to, everything that governs and oversees. So we could be seeing more changes or additional changes, but the clear one is courts, where those are state employees, paid by the state. But I don't know, and we don't know yet what it means in regards to the relationship there, the buildings, those kind of things that we currently do. But it clearly states that all technology, hardware, licensing, and services will be transferred, managed, and maintained by the state of Kansas.
Law enforcement too.
I do not know that yet. It is, like I said, the amendments are coming quickly. So I would put on your radars to look, House Bill 2842, Senate Bill 291, and we are all watching them closely across the state.
How's that tie into our system? I mean, would they be able to tie to ours?
No.
They wouldn't have any contact.
No.
They'd have to have a separate set of
This
computers.
is a physical separation of that network. That building, if you will. Now, all the courts, everything in the building over there would become a separated from Riley County. We are talking about how we understand they would do it. It's much like it used to be. They talk about the transfer of it onto their, what they call their CanWin network. Driver's license as an example right now. So they brought down a piece of hardware, they put this hardware in, and then that creates a connection back to the state. So the driver's license piece used to go through there. Years ago, smaller counties used the CanWin network. If you're a larger county, you didn't. They tried to put it in and provide as an internet. It just didn't work. They used to try to run the treasurer system over the CanWin network. That was just too much load for it. Well, they've expanded it, grown it, made it bigger, but it's what it states in there is that they'll transfer them over. They'd come down, they'd probably have ask the courts to have an internet connection put in. That internet connection would be put in. They'd bring down what would be probably a router of some device, put it in. That router would make a connection back to the state. They would log into their PCs as KS Sports accounts, no longer Riley County. There would be no more Riley County emails. They would be, and as we see it, they wouldn't even call us for support. Now, we quickly generate questions like phone system, security cameras. You know, I mean, it's our building, so we still need to make sure it's secure in those areas, but they use that as well to look at things. So I don't know a lot of the details yet, but they've already set the end game for what it's supposed to be and when it's supposed to happen. Now, what they've done is they've assigned these changes to take place at the state and say that you need to have a development or an implementation plan done by January 2026. And they'll review that and then approve that in January, and then implementation take place from 26 into 27. And by July of 2027, the transfer of all of those services and everything will be complete. It's big. It's, yeah.
Actually makes sense, though. It's kind of unique in how it is. They're state employees and it's state systems. They shouldn't be on our system.
Deny that either. I understand. And what they've had and what they've gone through and so forth. This gets their handle on it, but it changes.
It's changed, but it makes sense.
Yeah. So, you know, for us, it's, 50 workstations and a lot of licensing and a lot of cost. I mean, it's a, you want to say it as a savings or however, but there's a significant amount of money that comes out of the IT budget to fund that, because all the desktops, laptops, licensing, all of those things. So we'll see a change in that, but the support as well. Courts are a high demand support area, so we hope. They hope. I mean, to tell you what, things aren't right here in the courtroom. We're there as quick as we can put our feet on the floor and across to their building.
They'll be the ones that suffer, not us.
Yeah.
They will. Yeah. So
they'll have to buy all of our existing laptops?
Yeah,
or will they buy them new ones? Or
I don't know how that will play out. I'll be honest with you. If I'm there, I'm going to say we can't trust what's already there across the state. We have to buy, build, and put all of our hardware license, software and licensing on it, and then bring them down and put it in place. If you're asking me to do it the most secure way, all the equipment that the county has put in, we couldn't necessarily trust. And we're going to say, take all your equipment because we have our new equipment put in its place.
As you know, that's what they do with us with election equipment that's tied directly to their system.
It's exactly the same thing. Is that they say, no, we will bring you what you have to use and so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So sorry that I ran over, tried to be quick on the others, but I did want to talk about that, and I will bring updates as we have. So thank you, Tricia. Have a good day.
Thanks, Warren. Time for Mr. Holman.
Gonna pass. I don't have anything to update you on.
Okay. We'll have a short break until 9:35.
a question. University Park property swap, is that, I know you sent them a letter and.
Right, we're still working on it. So we gotta get some stuff sorted out. Now here's their maybe involved planning and development, potentially. We're gonna have to see whether it needs to be a split. So. That may not be the case, but we need to figure that out.
Place, those days are the, but he was talking about some big guys that was taking. Yeah, I'm not the other. I can see the blood pressure is really fun. The pulse is racing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Now.
Tell me you guys are
The second. The second occurrence. That is so. Well, you have a good point. You were amending to what you wanted to say. And you were closing 3 minutes, so.
You would get some for that.
You are not.
Yeah. You would get is that even if you've asked them to leave twice, there is nothing else. The police come and say, right, get off the property, do they come back? And then if they come back, then it's so they can be on the property several times. It's not until the police.
But college time, same thing, I'm on 2 or 3 days. What I'm interested in.
It's not.
Yeah.
Like a normal neighborhood where you're like, last month, they get lost. Riley County Police will get off. They're back in, we just don't want to trespass. That's how they.
There are Carlos and
That's what they see. We're gonna, so marshals, there's like, the crap really smells.
Wow.
Yeah, they're really good.
Maybe if you got a phone, you take some video.
Flashes.
We got a camera for it.
It looked.
Shoot it with a
I
camera.
don't hold it.
And he still does.
I don't know if I'll ever get there.
No, you might get great.
It's absolutely probably. Yeah.
just being outside and smoking.
You're there.
Yeah. Oh, that was no. But she didn't get a state. No.
What is it?
She's lost her voice. She's the smoke this time of year. She's got sensitive.
I told her I have some ivermectin.
Well, they haven't even started burning yet.
I know.
Wait till.
There was enough
Wait till the
last
wind
night.
gets-
We were outside visiting.
Fire.
I think it was home.
North to the
Just
south.
set her
Yeah.
stuff up.
Over
We had never experienced that until we moved to Kansas. Oh, and the first, I thought, I was like, what is happening? Are we in hell? I know. It's crazy. That's really like, this is
there.
like, I know I sent a picture to our team because back behind our house, they were burning that top ridge.
Yeah.
And I took a picture and sent it to our team and everybody, she used to live here, one of my team members. And oddly, her husband,
They never.
Dale, was on his PhD committee. So it's funny, we all kind of intertwined and she's like, oh, I can smell it now, but it makes me homesick. Oh, she's like, I miss it.
Well-
It'd be dramatic after dark and see. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's crazy.
Max Knightley used to, he burned down behind his house. Troy's place.
Try to say.
Every year.
Did you get?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't get more radioactive with his, because he was a ham operator.
No.
Well, we didn't get our license until a few years ago.
I have it, I'm like, I use it just to
No, when this happened, we grab it,
turn everything on.
turn everything on and listen, because
But,
it's that, you hear the storm chaser, so you know before it's even.
Every day at about
Sometimes I would say this, I do something that's not very observation.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right now.
you get on there, it's like our son, so
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just in there, say something.
I call someone.
Get on the repeater and say something.
Oh, shit. You're.
My neighbors are radio, died from that.
You call them.
I'm on set.
I don't really see where it is.
If everything is down.
Let's look at it. Here, we can.
James just keeps
7 miles away.
Oh, yeah.
and happening in this.
Unless it's regular. More than likely, you're gonna see it. It's just red.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there it goes.
He's got a
Yeah.
sad story.
So the radio that you got are
He actually
the
managed to
CD
save
or
himself.
the.
Oh.
And
They're like,
it was that
I got
close.
antennas that I can put on my
First
truck.
it in their front door.
So
And they all.
you gotta be able to get on the repeater system with those, with those that don't tell.
No, they're private, they're
He was
direct
driving
communication.
for work.
I gave like $700. No, I have radios that are hands,
Surprising. There's a lot.
but I also have a set of two
Oh.
that
You cannot miss it in our house. Our iPads are going off, phones are going off,
It's direct line to
you
site.
know, there's.
No, you don't need direct line of sight. I mean, I could pretty much talk
When we.
to the top of,
Because we
top of the
together
world.
for 8 years.
Of course, top of the world, just directly south of us, from north branch, right, south.
We talked to the other day.
Right, per house, it's only
They didn't really look and stuff, but you look at the house on the front, it's perfect.
And then the whole back is
Backside
gone.
is gone.
Oh my gosh.
And the crazy.
Yeah, but every year Max get out there. Every
Dog and
cat
cat.
roll ground, behind road place, yeah, every
That
year.
half the house is gone, but the food and the water is still in the house. And it's like.
That's insane. That makes the nose of this really fun.
Cat on your tongue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, that or.
Thank God. It's a big thought, I don't know.
Says I humor.
So like.
Have been spared, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right.
Oh, Russia, so Russia.
Seize them up.
So we got the deck boards completely off the deck and that's the front of the house faces the lake. Everybody thinks the back door is the front door. So I told Paul that the other day. So we're back in the TV room watching Shogun. And I hear a doorbell. I go, wait a minute, there's no doorbells in Shogun. Wait, oh, that's my doorbell. And then I'm like, who's gonna be ringing my doorbell? There's no deck boards on the deck. So I go to answer the door and here's Paul standing in the middle of the framing in the deck, ringing my doorbell.
So I didn't know that, about your bathroom. You go around back and that's facing the lake, that's the front.
That's the front.
Which makes sense.
And that's the doorbell.
Did you
That's
the
the-
lake from your house? Through the trees. I was gonna say, the trees
Well-
have gotten so.
There weren't any trees.
And all of those trees in front are actually under.
A lot of them are down on the below.
You could strike a deal with those guys and get a tree trimmer up there maybe.
Well, I think
How did they move?
we were told that by the
No.
former owner there that we could go and take down as many of those trees as we wanted, but we had to haul them away. We didn't want them left there, so, and that's on a pretty steep incline, so I'm like, nah.
Is that the back property, is that A-frame?
Yes.
No,
It's
they
like
put it
that.
out, they.
I haven't seen it. So you call a truck. I think that's what they do now.
I was even they're. I just. Landlines, and they'll keep up. And I think it was them.
Oh, I thought maybe that was the other house halfway down there pretty well. that was.
Oh, that could be.
Thought maybe it was that place, because now I saw the garage door over there
Yeah.
yesterday, there were all kinds of.
Oh, the German Shepherd house.
Yeah.
That's what we call it.
Yeah.
So everything is German Shepherd.
I only got snipped a couple times by those dogs.
It was the only one. They were circling us and he and Bill got into it. You did square off.
Oh, yeah.
And they were both like this. I got my phone out and I hit 911. I go, guys, I'm this close. Back it off. I mean, this guy was just put up in jail. It was terrible. And it's like, your dog's right.
That guy that had
Come on.
German Shepherds.
Oh,
He was exceptional.
yeah.
People that live there had.
And then the wife would sit there too and she didn't say anything. And they're like, our dogs are nice. I don't care, but they're circling me and our dogs. And with intent, they don't look nice. Dogs don't circle unless they're working on a point.
And the thing is, it's like when I was walking up every day, he knew who I was.
Yeah.
He was still
Well,
aggressive, so.
The young man that used to live there, the blonde, tall guy that was in the blue house, Tanner, he got nipped by the dogs when he was out walking. Yeah,
I had to pick her up because they were gonna,
yeah, they were,
They were gonna attack, don't really.
and I went off on this guy. And I used some choice words and I was.
he went Italian on us.
And he got all,
That's what we call him. He was not happy. He was an old oil, came off an oil field work.
Oh,
So,
rough and ready.
I mean, not to categorize, but to categorize, that's kind of was his demeanor, kind of broad, and
Yeah.
not very
and one
social.
of the dogs was a male actually,
That had been kenneled, like kenneled, and he was not a
Wasn't
very
socialized.
social.
Did you live here when we had the turkeys roaming the ditches?
well, we did it since 2015.
We've got turkeys in our backyard all the time. We had a ton of this tall.
At the time, they were like,
Huge.
turkeys that just lived on the street.
We had a gazelle show up
They were looking down the street.
huge
Yeah, we'd see them all the time.
this
Yeah.
last weekend.
Really? Huge.
Huge. I've never seen one
He
that
was
big.
on
I mean, he
place.
was ginormous. I'm like, Dale, you gotta come see this turkey. He's like, I've seen turkey. No, really, you need to go see this. It's like, oh my.
They used to, they go down
Yeah.
on the on the east side of the road, down below.
Yeah.
Further down, they get down there, I don't know when they started roosting on the telephone line. They go clear down by the houses, and they take a run and they fly up the slope and cross the road. And land on the telephone line. On the telephone pole.
Took a picture.
Well, it was okay when they were younger, but then they got bigger and bigger, the telephone line, it's sagging when they finally get up there and reach something.
I turned her hill and like I was coming off the hill. You know, the house with the star, we've got that little box in it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The guy that mows with his no shirt on.
Yeah.
That's what Paul calls him, the old silverback. I'm coming off the hill and here comes this herd of turkeys. And I slammed on my brakes. I mean, I was this close to my car.
You could have supplied the neighborhood with Thanksgiving and turkey.
You know what? Thank you. I saw that happen on the road going to town one time. This car was parked. A big hole in the windshield. I'm like, how on earth did I see this dead turkey in the middle of the road? Like having a bomb go off.
Did see a coyote, right?
Yeah. Oh, yesterday, I've seen coyotes go through there before too. Oh, I was thinking Chuck Sure. You have? He's at the your place there. He's roaming around in our time.
That's all the English.
Yeah.
That's the old back hill, those.
Oh, we call him George. We just call him. Check me.
Oh, yeah. In town.
A bunch of kids
And then the window goes to the background, but we don't have peripheral vision. Yeah, it was like pretty close.
That's Amanda.
I'm good, how are you?
Good.
Okay, yep.
All right, good morning, Commissioners, Mandy Bud, Planning Director. Here to talk about short-term rental regulations. I know you've heard from some folks recently about some concerns in their neighborhood about an unlicensed short-term rental. So mostly what I provided to you was information so far. Basically, I'm not 100% sure, how the conversation, should go or how you folks would like to talk about it. But at least what I provided to you is everything that we have, our short-term rental regulations and our LPRs that were effective in 2022. Also have all of our different STR, our application, our brochure, our checklist, and just a template of the license, just so you can see what all of that looks like. The information we ask for, the information we look at when we go and do an inspection, when we license and relicense, STRs, all of that information. And then I also included the violation section of the LBRs. Any violations, whether that be revocation of a license for, if they're not meeting criteria within the LBR, or if they're operating without a license, they all would fall under that violation criteria, how we approach any zoning code violations, that procedure. Right now, we have 18 licensed short-term rentals. As we all know that there are plenty of more probably out there that are not licensed that we're not aware of. Certainly if we become aware of them, they're sent letters notified, hey, just so you know, you need to be licensed, here's the criteria, here's how to do it. If they do not get licensed as they're supposed to and continue to operate, that triggers the violation process and we go down that path. We have 4 violations that we're aware of right now. And so that's one that's completely operating without a license, never had a license, and they're operating without one. And then 3 that are still operating, they haven't renewed the license that they had last year. So those are the 4 that we know of. Again, we know that there are likely more out there. We just don't know about them yet. We haven't found them yet or haven't been alerted to them yet to be able to follow up on that. So this is at least what we have right now.
So we're aware of 22 then, so it's
Correct.
18 plus the 4. Okay.
Correct, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I know, some folks have expressed some concerns and we've had, some conversation over the last few months and you folks have wanted to have more formal conversation as we're doing now. I just wasn't sure. So I wanted to give you all the information. I just wasn't sure kind of what direction or what you folks are thinking, if there's changes you want to see, if there's other considerations, kind of what direction you might have for us that we can look at or that we can propose or however you'd like to approach it. So that's kind of why we're here this morning to hear that from you folks.
The biggest problem I see is enforcement.
Yeah.
Do we have any teeth of anything we can do?
Yeah, with any of our enforcement, as you folks know.
Yeah, I mean, with all of it, that's the problem. We can make all these rules, but we can't enforce it. People don't have much authority to enforce anything. I don't know if there's what we can do differently than that.
Yeah.
I guess at least if they're licensed, we have a little bit, at least they're listening to us, but the ones that aren't licensed.
And I'm sure there's more than 22 out there that we're not even aware of.
Right, absolutely.
Like I said, I guess you've tried to contact this one on Terra Heights, but nothing,
Yes.
they won't respond, so.
We have been sent multiple letters. So it was a previous property owner who had submitted for their license, but then they sold the home, so we gave them back their license and fees since it wasn't going to be them and these don't transfer.
Oh,
And
okay,
they-
it was licensed for a while.
Well, they had
Initially.
applied to be licensed.
Oh,
And so we were going through the process, then they sold the home, so again, we gave it back, because even if they were licensed, the licenses don't transfer. So they're like, we're selling the house, so we're not. But it's our understanding they were aware that the buyer was gonna continue on with a short-term rental. So they were alerted that they needed the license, they've been sent an initial friendly letter, they've also been sent a notice violation letter. And as of today, we have not heard anything back from them. So they are, so that particular one is in violation and not licensed, has not been licensed.
I know, so the problem, and I thought somewhere that tried to follow through on it, don't we have it, that if just have so many parkings off street parking places, one per bedroom, is that what it was?
Correct, yeah,
You know, but when they initially rent it for people, but then everybody else shows up for the party.
right.
If those roads out there aren't made, I mean, they can, it's allowed on street parking, but they're not wide enough that allows
Yeah.
it.
To allow for the more major traffic and even, I mean, it's a problem even with licensed ones, you can have 2 people per bedroom plus 2 additional people, you know, maybe they sleep on the couch sort of thing. So if you have a 4-bedroom, quick math, that's 8 people. So even with licensed ones, you know that people can have big crazy whatevers and then they're having traffic and they're having, you know, more people and maybe more people are sleeping over. So yeah, it can definitely happen with both unlicensed and licensed that they're exceeding that number and yeah, causing additional traffic and other things that we have criteria, you know, that they need to follow. But unfortunately, a lot of it still is impactful. That I think that's kind of a side effect of that.
One thing, and it seemed they brought up the neighbors, brought up this one. Is there any way we can require a fence? Because a lot of these, it's a problem that people come in there and just take over the neighborhood, you know, wandering every place. Is there a way to require a fence or at least have a requirement to mark?
So we
property
do
lines?
require them to mark property lines, so there's supposed to be a map inside the unit, letting them know, okay, here's your boundaries, and then they're also supposed to mark on the ground. Where the, you know, just a little signage or whatnot, where the lot ends, this is the end of the property. Essentially, so we don't have fencing requirement, but again, we do have that marking.
Part of it, you know, they don't, well, like I say, this was licensed even, so they don't even try.
Yeah, so all of our criteria would have to be met and in place before we would license. So any of the criteria that's in there, they would have to show us they're meeting it. Including signage, including the you know, the notification information when people check in, all of that information has to be met and shown. When we do our inspection, we do our review before we would license or relicense.
And it's in the enforcement stuff, it talks about civil prosecution, criminal prosecution. Have we even tried that, or is it? Maybe Clancy can tell whether it's futile.
Well, I'm not sure. The regs, what we usually end up with, any kind of county resolutions like this, there's a code for enforcement of county resolutions. It's just pretty toothless in terms of getting something done because it's small fines. And so that's why in the past on different land use issues, not necessarily these, what we usually end up doing at some point, if there's enough information available, and I mean something that will convince a court, then we file an injunctive action in district court and try and get the district court to require that someone comply. And quite frankly, I don't know where that is on any of these. Shelley might be able to enlighten me on that, I hope.
We don't currently have any of the SCRs that have made it through the full violation process yet to file for an injunction. But the process would look exactly the same as for like our nuisance properties. So you're familiar with that process. It's the violation process is exactly the same. And we would have the same remedies in court and the same issues that we have with enforcement of nuisance property. So it goes through the same process. So, but we are you know, we are going through the violation process with a few of the properties that she's already said, but we haven't gotten yet to the point where we're ready to file an injunction.
I guess that's the criminal stuff, that's after you've gone through all the other stuff, you know.
That's probably from the code enforcement, county resolutions. Those are in effect, those are criminal fines, I suppose. They're really civil.
Yes, it's kind of a weird hybrid criminal civil situation. Mostly it gets treated as civil fines. In theory, there could be some misdemeanor stuff. I've never really seen it enforced that way. And I can just say the courts are going to be very, very reluctant to issue criminal convictions to people for property use. That's just it. I'm not saying that it could never happen, but it just seems to be something that they're very, very reluctant to do. So really, you're going to see the civil process play out the same way that we've done with the cases that we have ongoing here.
And on those, as you've seen, you have to have not just a finding by the court, then you have to have the court willing to issue an order of contempt potentially. There you run into additional potential penalties. Contempt of court can be punished even by jail time.
It can, and that can become criminal as well, criminal contempt of court, but that's up to the judge on how they enforce that. And as you're aware, we have a case that we're going through that right now, where essentially we're gonna have to go back to the court and ask them to enforce, their orders. And I don't know what, the court is gonna be willing to do at this point on that, but essentially it will be us continuing to go back and asking them to.
So we're doing this basically civil rather than criminal, is that?
That's really what you're with is
That's what you're
the most
starting with.
potentially useful remedy. But that remedy depends on the facts of each individual case and whether or not that judge, whoever hears it, is willing to, first of all, issue an order, and secondly, enforce that order through potential contempt of court. The reason and part of the delay, and I'm just telling you what the way it checks out. This is the real thing.
I assume it.
It doesn't
It's
have,
not easy.
I will tell you, in the court system, these do not have a high priority because they are civil. And they are at the bottom of the pile, not these types of actions, but any civil case that does not involve even things like divorce and that kind of thing. They're below all the criminal stuff because all the criminal actions that are facing the courts, both in the past and now, they go first because there are time limits for actually having a final decision. Less so with regard to civil, and at the top of the civil pile, quite frankly, are going to be matters involving potentially large civil judgments, medical malpractice case, that kind of thing. They're going to have a higher priority setting. I'm not trying to depress you or anybody listening. I'm just telling you the way it works because the courts have to process it in terms of when is this the time for enforcing this going to be over with? And how critical from a public policy standpoint should this type of case be treated? It's not to disparage anything about the importance of individual violations. I mean, we believe any violation of a county resolution is important, but I'm just telling you, it's at the bottom of a pretty large stack, no matter where we are on it. So it's just going to take time, and nobody wants to hear that. That's the truth. And then even when you get there, a lot of times you can be less than enthusiastic about the result because it requires an order that someone potentially face a real penalty beyond those small fines that are available in the Code for Enforcement of County Resolutions.
Fines weren't much.
They're not.
They're not going to deter anything, so you have to.
Well, I mean, they can be daily, and potentially that can rack up, in a situation where somebody's actually operating a business, that could actually be more useful than what it is in the nuisance realm. Because in the nuisance realm, separate from this,
Right.
you're cleaning up a property or that kind of thing.
They don't have any power.
That's different from an ongoing business. But it just depends on whether they care about those fines stacking up each and every day. And you have to have a judge willing to order. It's a daily fine
And enforce that.
and enforce it. But if you don't pay it, then something bad happens. Potentially
You
you can go to
have
jail.
to find the court too long. But they're going to say, oh, well, they didn't really mean it or something,
Well, it's tough because anything that's in the realm of this kind of item, judges are used to dealing with criminal matters. I mean, that's when they're much less reluctance to actually imprison somebody or give a substantial fine if somebody has committed a criminal act. It's just the way it is. You get into civil
process like this, and it's just a matter of the individual facts of that case and how bad that this is that you can convince the court. And we always put on the best evidence we've got. We keep going back to the best example we've got. And you can still end up where we are, which is pretty much no progress. So it's not to criticize any individual court. I'm just telling you, it's just a reality. It's just the priorities of these kinds of things they're stacked in favor of getting those civil matters resolved first. Then the larger civil issues or the time limited ones, or a civil issue involving, say, a child needed care proceeding. That's going to go to the top of the stack because that involves the welfare of a child and those kinds of things, as often divorce cases do with custody matters. So it's just a reality.
Go ahead.
So really, Clancy, aren't you saying, since we've been dealing with nuisance properties so much, the only real way, no matter how tough we make the regulations and how many reports we have of violations that are violations, the county really doesn't have no teeth, or the courts, until state law would enhance the problem.
But they'd have to make it a difference.
They'd have to make a state law that would give counties and cities more authority to actually have a real, for lack of a better word, threat to that owner, business person, that something substantial is going to happen and the court could uphold it.
Potentially, because in the right circumstances, for example, if the county had the ability on a nuisance to take action, even in, say, this kind of setting, if it were determined to be a public nuisance of some kind, any of the violations that you talked about, and we were able to convince a court of that. And if the existing law were different, then you would have more teeth in it than what we've currently got. Yeah. You would.
That's the only way and the state has started to talk about it, but they're going to be slow in this process too. And it's probably going to be a year or two out. It just is.
Well, I know it was this year, last year, they said, as we've got something on listserv about, the state wants to set new regulations for STO somewhere. Yeah, they do.
They didn't pass.
But at least get some. But the other thing, in this is commercial work in a residential area. I mean, if somebody is running a business out of their house, that's a problem. But this isn't considered a business.
I think you could argue it's still a business, but you're going to have the same issues.
So from a classification, like at least for the appraisal rule standpoint, most of these fall under the definition of a bed and breakfast. That definition was changed, I want to say give or take 2017. I could be a year or two off on that. It used to be that a bed and breakfast required somebody to live in the property and then rent out rooms like your traditional bed and breakfast model. They removed that residency requirement at that time. And so I think specifically in relation to the short-term rentals, and then out west, have some hunting lodges and stuff that fall under that same. So now the definition, so it still is technically considered residential property, even though there's that commercial model that's being applied to it.
Bed and breakfast considered commercial?
It's considered residential.
Even then, like those aren't, or I don't hear those a big problem because there's someone living there.
Right, I mean, there's somebody on site.
And this one, they live.
And that was traditionally
they're
how
close to here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the commercial is kind of the same issue that we have with those that are using property for guide services as well, and why they're, and so that's kind of the same there. But just so this group understands, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they can give you guys all the regulations and put all these rules and regulations in there. But at the end of the day, we don't have anything to really do anything with it. And so the people you really need to get in the ears of to make substantial change is state legislators. The state has to change the law to give these people authority to do something at the courts. Just so you know, I'm not saying you're wasting your time going to them and saying, here's what we need to put in it, but they have no enforcement by state law, not because they're not willing.
Clancy, is that nuisance bill that's going through, that isn't gonna be applicable to this.
Let's not talk about it going through.
If it goes,
Because we're trying, but I don't know, that's a 50-50 shot at best. And if it does, potentially, it could at least be considered a tool that could be used in this kind of thing. Certainly, we'd be willing to look at that. To see if it's, and again, here's the good news. I mean, if it qualified, it'd be because things were so bad, it'd come to the point there's maybe some kind of attractive nuisance being created or health and sanitation violation being created, which you could have happen. That would be the easiest way to plug it into that kind of enforcement ability, but that's a very specific tool. Now, the reason that one will work on the traditional nuisance, separate and apart from this, is because if it's in place, the county then can go in and do something. It can remove something, can take away something that is causing a problem, and then have those costs placed on a lien of the property. On most of what is being done here, you're not going to be in a circumstance where you're taking something off the property. There are differences. First time I say that will not happen. Somebody will operate one of these in a way that is creating all kinds of abandoned appliances on the front lawn or something. I'm not encouraging anybody who's listening and running one of these to start doing that. But it's just a little bit of a different. You'd have a different factual setting. I'm not saying it couldn't qualify in some way. But even if passage of that might not necessarily directly address this, it's going to depend on it. Does it get passed? And does the language get changed in the legislature in some way that we're not expecting, which is always a possibility, as you've seen on other bills. So that's not something we're trying to get done, but just to let you know. I hope I'm rating on everybody's parade to the extent possible. I feel like I'm making people clinically depressed when I tell you the truth. So,
Well,
it just doesn't, doesn't seem to do any good to have all these regulations if you can't enforce them. It just doesn't make sense.
that's why a lot of counties don't
Don't have
mess
it.
with it.
Yeah.
Can't do anything with it.
well, throwing it wide open could really cause problems.
Well, that's
You're
true.
saying.
To be fair, most people do
Mhm.
follow
Mhm.
the regulations in some measure. Unfortunately, there are a handful that are very, very impactful and do cause that problem.
In just about any land use issue, that's what you're going to run into. You end up dealing with those that are problematic.
Mhm.
They're the only ones you ever see.
We're gonna move on then.
Is there any other direction or anything else you want me to bring back? Any other conversation?
Go ahead and get a state rules for that.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm glad to be a ray of gloom in your otherwise sunshiny.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on, we've got Julie next, so you have motion.
I'll get it right. I move to recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Board of Health.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. We
Recess.
recess as the Board of County Commission and reconvene as the Board of County Health. All in favor?
Aye.
Good
morning.
Thanks. So Julie Gibbs with the Health Department. I'm here with two more out-of-state travel requests. Hopefully this is the last of them for this season anyway. I have Carly Tyler. She's one of our newest members of our team. She's our part-time emergency unit leader. That's Medical Reserve Corps. It is under her grant that she is required to attend this MRC National Summit, which is taking place in Chicago this year. The travel dates will be May 21st through the 24th. This is all covered within her grant. So everything from travel to the registration is all covered. And again, she is required to go as the unit leader. Any questions on this one?
Get a motion on it?
Let's see, I would make a motion to approve the out-of-state travel request for Carly Tyler.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the out-of-state request for Carly Tyler in the Riley County Health Department. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Thank you. And the next one is for Elizabeth Mills. She is within the Raising Riley department. She's one of our family engagement specialists. She would like to attend the health promotion conference with Skylar. We did have to wait on permission from the state FEP department to be able to spend the regional FEP grant money on this. So we did get permission from them to, they did approve this. So that's why it's a little late. I came with you, or came here with Skylar's request last week. I would have brought that, but we were waiting on that approval. As I mentioned last week, we do have quite a bit of funds left over in that grant that need to be spent down by the end of June. We usually don't have any problem spending that money. For whatever reason, this year we had trouble finding trainings and conferences to attend. So kind of had to search more for them. So we did attend this health promotion conference last year. I did send 2 individuals, so they were able to divide and conquer as there are lots of breakout sessions. So I have no doubt Elizabeth and Skylar will do the same and bring back some valuable information to the department. So this would all be covered through the regional FEP funds to include travel and registration.
I move to approve the out-of-state travel request for Elizabeth Mills from the Raising Riley.
I would second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve the out-of-state travel request for Elizabeth Mills in the Raising Riley Department. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to recess as the Board of County Health and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to recess as the Board of County Health and reconvene as the Board of County Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner, you have Vivian Leyva, 10:05.
That's it's the only, what's in policy. 150 miles away.
No, I don't even think if it was a problem. I'd like to get in on what's going on in the rest of the country and what other states are trying to do.
Yeah.
Well, some of those people probably live in further away than Hoxie.
Mhm.
A lot of those owners probably live even further away
Yeah,
than
well,
Hoxie.
Oh, so this one lives in Hoxie?
That's what we looked at. We were talking about it. That looked it up yesterday and stopped. I didn't know it had changed owners.
The owner, the neighbors had to send them a letter out there and tell them what's going on. It's
They actually don't care. Is
Is
that the biggest?
Yeah.
Well, because people that do that from that is fair. He said the biggest problem recently was Super Bowl Sunday and fake patties weekend. A big group.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, there's one telling you, but he said, there was people coming and going all night. He said, you lose some people there at any one time, but there are people in down the way.
That's a waste from Annual too. I don't know what Pete's gonna do to eradicate fake patties.
Yeah, but
Maybe move it back to Indian town.
well, but the there's only That Aggieville merchants, Aggieville Business District didn't want to officially designate because they've got a license.
Liability.
Yeah, that's true.
So they don't want to officially,
Officially.
because then they're liable for it.
And Jason was sure for it.
Yeah, right.
Who is it?
I was glad, Wynn had his stats there.
Yeah,
That was
that's
a whole
good.
different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Nap time.
Mine, you like AV times in school, get the film strip out, be the person who gets to like advance the film on a film projector.
Uh-huh.
That was the best.
Watch the bull burn up the slide.
Yeah,
That's when you knew you were meant for the PIO position. Or
that
not.
was the beginning of that.
I get you some glasses with some tape in the middle.
Can I have a pointer? Do you remember
Oh,
like
yeah.
a big wooden pointer to point?
Yeah,
to the
those are
mouse?
good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can requisition that.
Yeah, and the tone when you move to the next slide. There are people who've never seen that, never had to sit through one of those.
Maybe we ought to do one of those.
Yeah, it's me. It's me.
I didn't name anybody in particular.
She looked over at me. She knew who was thinking it. I get her about daily. You don't know what that is, do you?
Like when they show little kids like cassette tapes and all those things, and they have no idea, like rotary phones, no one knows how to use. I get a kick.
A friend of mine bought his son an old car up in Riley, and his son hopped in the car and looked down the door. What's that? That's how you roll the window down.
Yeah, Craig Cox, his granddaughter got the card and she asked him what that was. And he said, it's the crank roll the window down. She says, no, really, Grandpa, what is it? And it really does. That's what you really roll the window down.
We've come a long way. And yes, I'm on tap. Actually, yeah. Speaking of school. So first of all, I just got back from a KSNT visit. We went with Josh Gehring and then Jen Campbell. She owns Woolly Bee Farm in Lucia. I don't know if you remember from last summer. She and her husband were walking out behind their house. Her husband was struck by lightning. She performed CPR for 15 minutes and saved his life. And now has become an advocate for people to learn CPR. So she found a partner in EMS and Josh Gehring, and June happens to be CPR awareness month. So they're planning, I believe, 5 events, which, you know, demonstrations at Farmers Market, which is kind of her arena. So she was able to get some things worked out there, but they're going to take the demonstration dummies and mannequins and show people hands-only CPR, which there is no certification. There's not a lot of class for it. So it's a good way to help people get over that fear of, well, maybe I don't want to step in and perform CPR. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's hope, like, they aims to connect them with, like, yes, you can perform CPR, and just the chest compressions are enough to make a huge difference, like between life and death in someone's life. So that was exciting to learn a little bit more about that. We did some events planned, but we were on the news this morning. That was pretty good. So this time of year is, of course, severe weather and wildfire season. So I spent a lot of time focused on crisis communications. That picture on the right was from Fort Riley. They got, that's about tennis ball size hail that just kind of skimmed the southeast corner of Riley County that night, where there were about 6 tornadoes in the Alta Vista, Alma, Volland area. So we were in the EOC, and you can see some of on the radar screen, that bright red and all of the things that were happening. It was a good refresher and showed me some things that I did wrong, thankfully, in a scenario for Riley County that was not life or death. So I get to knock the rust off and get ready in case something like that does happen here, not that it doesn't.
I also been working with Lori and Russell in emergency management. There are some plans and documents, guides and templates, that kind of thing, that live in the emergency operations plan as tasks that have not been done yet. So I'm going to be working on developing those things. And then also working with the health department as they go through their reaccreditation process to update their style guide and crisis communications plans too, which, you know, that's the planning before helps during those crisis moments when your brain turns off and you have to go on memory and practice to be able to do the right thing. So we're gonna put all those practices and guides in place beforehand and get cracking on that. And the person you see there is John. He's a volunteer and a ham radio operator. He coordinates the storm spotters in the EOC and is checking in with people who are positioned around the county to report back to the National Weather Service. So I learned more about that too, which I find very interesting. Social media. Meta is making a change that might affect our ability to post on groups. So there are your own Facebook profile, there are pages that are manned by or kind of represent organizations. And then within that, there are groups. So for instance, childcare providers have a group on Facebook where we can post updates and information, and they can also interact with each other. But in our unique position as a government entity, we have to archive and keep track of everything that appears on our social media accounts. And Meta is limiting the ability for third-party API, which is our Archive Social subscription, to have access to that information. So I've been in communication with Clancy and Corey and Rich, and we're going to figure out exactly what that's going to mean for Riley County and what we do about it. But it could potentially impact some of the ways that we use social media. But we'll find other ways to communicate with those groups if we need to. But that's just kind of a heads up about that, because it can never be easy. That would, you know, they don't want us to rest on our heels, especially in terms of social media. That's always changing. A little bit of growth since the last time I talked to you, most noticeably with Riley County Emergency Management, which is consistent with the fact that we had some severe weather and people say, oh, I need to pay attention. And we typically get more followers at that time, which is great because it just gives us another way to reach people where they're already looking, which is the handy part about social media. And I will save the unhandy rant about all the things I don't like about social media for us. But you know what? I have some stats because I like stats. And we were going to explore the effectiveness of the morning videos that Commissioner Ford has been so kind to do. The anecdotal information, I believe, has been more impactful. And I think several people have talked to you about, hey, I saw this, or I didn't know this. I didn't realize the commission had decided XYZ or this was happening. So again, the numbers are a little bit lower than I had hoped, but if Commissioner Ford is still willing to devote the time, we can decide to continue doing that. And I believe, yes, you're shaking your head. So yes, that's been fine. We're not spending any money to do this. And as it spreads, we'll catch anecdotally a few people say, oh yeah, I didn't know that. So that's where we are, but those are the numbers. Reach represents the number of unique people who saw any content. And then the view, if I could spell, is counted when a video is watched for at least 3 seconds. So sometimes it'll just flash by as people are scrolling, and that's counted, but you have to look at the whole picture of what all these different stats mean in terms of, is our message reaching people or not? So a few, that'll hopefully continue to grow over time, watching kind of these numbers here. I took a little bit of a hiatus from X. We weren't posting much content to the platform formerly known as Twitter for a while. They removed our ability to schedule things. There was a method to kind of schedule things out, which is really handy in this line of work. And that went away when kind of all of these things changed. So I can post live, I can type in something right now and it goes on our accounts. Been doing a little bit more than that, more of that kind of posting lately, just to see what we can capture. We've had some moderate success, as you can see, this avoid the area from Monday when we had kind of the ice rink up north on the highways. Not a lot of interaction, 52 people engaged or saw it, but that's 52 more people than we would have had otherwise. So still something. I worked with Elizabeth and Michelle to create some updated recruiting materials for job fairs. HR has gone out to Rock Creek High School, I believe, or there was I'm not gonna say it right. Riley.
Randolph, Blue Valley Randolph, 384.
Blue Valley.
Third time's a charm.
I don't have kids, so they're all, school to school.
DIO says.
I appreciate it.
We're gonna get some hits now.
Yeah.
No, we really appreciate it. And they actually it was a regional job fair, and Elizabeth had a lot of interaction, and Alvin and Chelsea went 5 different schools. So that was great to remind kids that there are careers available in government, and every municipality has jobs that are available, and this is a good place to live that's stable and offers good benefits, and really nice commissioners who forgive you when you say
Slid that in there.
I wasn't listening. What did you say?
We can watch the video later. But then Elizabeth also made a visit to Key State for their job fair as well. So we wanted to make sure we had some professional handouts and graphics and posters and all that good stuff. Lots of stuff going on in committees lately. Russell, Corey, and I visited AMC to check on logistics for this year's Employee Day, which happens on Columbus Day, October, whatever that happens to be this year. Also working with onboarding, compensation and benefits, employee training, and a few other outward facing committees, which is helpful for me. Building relationships is a big part of my job, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that. Website stuff, staying pretty consistent with 16,000 plus or minus engaged sessions per month always proves to us that the website is one of our most important communication tools. Continues to be unwieldy. I know the health department has worked to update their information lately. We're constantly kind of trying to comb through and update and make sure all the links work, but it's time consuming and tedious, and often we have so many pressing things to attend to, but we're trying to keep that as up to date as we can, and I appreciate staff time to invest in that work. We have we went through Severe Storm Preparedness Week. Lori Harrison is helping host a storm spotter class the National Weather Service is putting on tonight at Potter Hall. It's general kind of thunderstorm and severe storm information and awareness and safety tips, but also can be kind of the first step to becoming a storm spotter if somebody's interested in reporting information either back to Riley County or back to the National Weather Service. So we've been trying to get the word out about that. And as you know, if you live in Kansas, knowing more about the weather is going to serve you in the long run. So we encourage people to stop by tonight at Podorb starting at 7. And then at the health department tonight, starting at 5, there's an open house and Easter egg hunt, which was really successful last year. This is the second year they're hosting that event. We're hoping a lot of folks come out after work and learn a little bit about health and have their kids participate in some fun activities. So there's probably 75 million other things going on, and I could stay up here all day, but there we have it. Do you guys have any questions or observations or advice for me to get my foot out of my mouth? Always helpful. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks for the next commissioner. You have Elizabeth Ward at 10:20.
I guess so.
Oh, really?
Did you have some pictures?
Well, this is just the updated, the things that were consensus I took off of the executive summary, and it's in the packet, but in
Okay,
case you wanted a hard copy of it.
okay, good. Because I was hoping you'd be there. Yeah. I didn't make a copy of this.
So John, that's just a printed version of the executive session. I took off the things that were consensus and left on the items that we talked about that need to be continued to look at, and then the next things that we want to talk about. So there shouldn't be anything you haven't seen, and just.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Leslie Ford, Bryan County Human Resources Director. It sounds like you guys got a lot of heading in for Vivian, so hopefully we're all over that. So no continued their basket jumps. So I do have in front of you the executive summary, and it is updated. I went through and took out the things that were approved by consensus, but we still have several things to discuss from our last conversation. I'd like to start with the holiday. If you look on your executive summary, you can see a draft of verbiage for the holiday, which is more like Commissioner McKinley suggested. So it would have specifics when dates fall on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that is, you don't necessarily have to approve that today, but I wanted to see if that was more in line with what you're expecting as far as clarity. Do you see where it is, Commissioner McKinley?
Yeah.
I had a printout of it. Yes, thanks. So I printed out the new executive.
We're going
summary.
to 2 days on New Year's.
It's a proposal, but yes, that's for your discussion. So the reason I put that in there is because that is what has been the regular request that we've come to you each year with what you were referring to as the special unique situations, right? And so, yeah, that is definitely up for your discussion.
I thought maybe I didn't say if Christmas is on a Saturday or Sunday, I would think we'd only do 1 day. My thoughts, and same in New Year's. It's 1 day.
Sorry. Saturday, Sunday, 4 days.
John.
Yes.
Yeah, and the reason for that, Commissioner McKinley, is because traditionally you always had half a day on Christmas Eve, so employees generally always got a day and a half. So it's always been an expansion to 2 days. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know that we've ever gotten 1 day for Christmas in quite a while. And so, and that's, we talked about this a long time ago about simplifying this, and this reminds me just kind of a different version of what we had before of so much verbiage for different scenarios. And, You know, frankly, that's why I said, just for addressing Christmas, just 2 days. And we present the calendar to the commissioners each day for the holidays each year. It isn't, just decided by HR in December or anyone in December. And so that's why the
Well, it is
initial.
right now, it wasn't decided so that till now, it's always been decided in December.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said we're trying to go away from that.
Yeah.
That's what I just said. We're trying to go away from that and just say 2 days for every Christmas holiday.
We agree that the December, bringing it up in December is not ideal for you, but also definitely not ideal for the employees.
They
Yeah.
don't know what's happening
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah, so what I would propose just for the process to explain what you're saying is that each year, we know our calendar for we know the calendar for the next 40 years, right? And so, and how payroll will sit out in that, because our payroll year doesn't necessarily follow the calendar year.
Yeah.
So we easily could present to you, these are the holiday dates each year, and we could easily do it, in December for the next year, not for the current year, or at any point, really. I could lay them out for you for many years in the future, which might be simpler than this, but. In my mind, that could be part of the regular HR updates, and then if you have questions or concerns, we change it at that point.
And that would be okay. No, if we say maybe the first of the year, that'd be fine.
Yeah, prior to the
But
year
yeah,
starting.
I realize Christmas on Saturday or Sunday, you get 1 day,
And we could
New Year's on one.
we could put that verbiage in there that as approved by the board at the beginning or in December of the
Yeah.
previous year in there as well, the 2 days, because we have to have it on our calendars administratively for payroll and accounts payable to get our calendars lined out. And so I don't know if you do, but I think you do. You have a big calendar on your wall. Yeah, Cindy Volante did too. Big calendar all the wall with used to be the green shaded in the holidays, days off. That way we can schedule and staff can get the word out to these department heads. Okay, I need time cards and AP in by this day because of this holiday. And so, that's why I suggested the 2 days, and it wasn't clear that, it would be brought to the board. It wouldn't surprise you December 1
Right.
when Christmas is coming up. Here's when we're planning on taking the holidays. That was never the intent, but something in there where the upon commission approval
Yeah.
at
But a year-
December of the.
But at least a year in
previous year.
advance, because we have to have those prior to the year starting so that we can put them in Paylocity. And so that's got to be November, at the November 1st of December at the latest for next year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we can do that, change that verbiage, but I want to be clear. I hear Commissioner McKinley saying 1 day when certain days fall. And so that is less than we currently have. And I just want to make sure which way you as a group want to go.
Well, you were saying less on New Year's and less on Christmas.
That's my thoughts.
It falls on a Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
So the proposal as is, if there were 2 days and it did fall on Saturday, you would have Friday and Monday would be your days off as written, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So just to kind of lay it out. So if I'm understanding right, if we changed it and Christmas was on a Saturday, we would have only Friday off. If Christmas was on Sunday, we would have Monday off, just to kind of lay it out.
Mhm.
Is that the direction you want to go? Do you want to do a half a day on Christmas Eve when those things fall? Do you want to just clearly have 1 day?
I say 1 day.
Like I said, I'm only one of three, but that's what my thoughts are.
And 1 day.
You're saying 1 day, John, if it's on a Saturday and Sunday? Okay.
So it just, because we've always had, if Christmas Eve fall on Friday, we've always had at least a half a day so people can travel. So this proposal, they would take that away. So we'd work all day on Christmas Eve and then,
No,
oh no, you'd have,
no, you'd have Christmas Eve.
You'd have
off.
Christmas Eve
On
off.
Saturday, you had,
Okay.
Christmas on Saturday, you'd have Friday off.
If Christmas were on Friday, you would have Thursday off.
Thursday off.
If Christmas is on
Thursday,
Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, yeah, it's on Friday, you have Thursday and Friday.
But I think what Shiloh's saying, the traditional half day that we got
So
for
that
Christmas Eve,
people could
no
travel.
longer.
And
You'd no longer get a day and a half. You would
You
get
don't-
one day in those situations.
I think that's, that's kind of, the employees have always appreciated your generosity, giving that. I know every year we've come and you've been very generous. I would hate to see us go
Well, if we're going from a
backwards.
day and a half, we're going to 2 days, 5 out of 7. Right?
What's that?
You're saying we were only getting half a day before, and now we're going to 2.
No, we would get Christmas Day off and half of Christmas
A
Eve.
day and a half.
Well,
And
now
then
you're
half.
getting Christmas and all of Christmas Eve off.
Right, correct. And that's
We
what
have
Shiloh's
expanded-
saying.
We've expanded it.
Yeah, it has been expanded based on commission
She's saying
direction.
it's,
Based on
Well,
commission direction, it's
In
been.
practice though, since I've been here, which is all I can speak of, we have had, in effect, had 2 days, everything, because the commissioners have approved it. So I think you're right, Commissioner McKinley, for policy, it's expanded to go to 2, but in practice, to Shiloh's point, I think the employees are used to it, does not mean that's the way you have to go.
I like the extra time given for travel, especially at Christmas time.
Go ahead.
Do you have anything?
No.
It's just that I think the commission's well aware of all the work and what was just recently approved by this board to give staff more time off and expanding the scale on which people get time off, because that's what these department heads and their employees have told you they would like. And also an additional, I don't know what we call the day. It's not appropriate to call it a floating holiday, whatever it is.
Personal day. Personal day.
And so you've expanded on that. And so here you're taking a step backwards. And so that's just how employees will look at it. I'm just telling you. That's, and correct me if I'm wrong, department heads.
we kept a half a day twice out of 7 years.
Each person looks at it that individual year on how much time they're getting off.
That's what you're saying.
Ask your department heads and employees if they've appreciated the extra efforts the commission has granted in that extra
And we have
half a
done
day.
that. We've expanded other stuff already.
I think Elizabeth just wants direction. What 2 or more of you would
And
like to
also, I can put
proceed?
that out there. I can also put that, I mean, I don't wanna,
We said 1 for less and 1 for more.
and if it needs to come back in the final, I can do that, whatever you, I mean.
Well, I always feel that, and that's why I wanted a little bit more because of what we've been doing, because, people travel, but a lot of people, if they, they'll sit around, they don't do anything. They want to get on the road and, it's like to have a half a day. That's kind of tough, but, I like to have, I think, especially for traveling, a lot of people do travel with families.
Except that's some Saturday, we'll have Friday.
Yeah. But if we just saw it lined out for the next 4 years.
Okay.
And see how it looks,
On the days.
on the days.
Okay, definitely can do that.
That way we
Try to
can
make it
because this
clear.
is kind of,
Yeah.
Not seeing that very well.
yeah.
Okay,
See,
I can do that,
yeah,
sure.
okay.
So since we're in holidays, we can stick to holidays and discuss the eligibility for holiday pay. We had a pretty robust conversation about this last time. And then had a couple of conversations with department heads since then. So you can see the committee's recommendation at the bottom there is the recommended motion. If an observed holiday falls on a day when the employee is not scheduled to work, the employee will not be allowed to designate another day off. That's the proposal.
The change would be obviously then, hopefully, that currently they're able to designate another day off work.
Explain that again.
So we talked about this last time, John. So when you are on, for example, 410s, let's just, maybe it's the easiest way to talk about it. I'm scheduled Monday through Thursday. I have Friday off, right? That's my normal schedule every week. When a holiday falls on a Friday, which by the way is one time in 2024, then I would not be paid or get an extra day off for that day. I would simply work 40 hours and have my Friday off the same as every other week that I work.
Right.
But right now, if that same scenario, I'm working Monday through Thursday and the holiday falls on a Friday, my supervisor and I redesignate. So I actually take off Thursday and Friday for that holiday. So I get to designate a different day because I'm not scheduled to work on the observed holiday. I'm not in favor of that. I've never heard of it outside of the county. It is to me one of the benefits of an alternate schedule or a flexible schedule, whichever the department's using, is that if you're just off on that day, you're off. Yeah, it does not affect employees' pay because if you're working 40 hours, you get paid 40 hours. If you're working 30 hours and get 10-hour holiday, you get paid 40 hours. You just would not get holiday pay.
Yeah.
So the health department is already experiencing this. They already have kind of a lot of different schedules. And so we look at their schedule. And if they are scheduled to work on an administrative day or a holiday, they get paid for that. If they're not scheduled to work, they do not get paid for it. It's also mirrors our administrative leave policy. So when we have an emergency snow day and we close, if someone was not scheduled, they don't get paid for that. So this would be more in line with what we're already doing on admin leave. We've just carved out as extra benefit for holidays that I think honestly, to my mind, has just been adapted because we've been trying to add in flexible schedules and then people were trying to make accommodations. And I think maybe that was a bit too far.
Yeah. So most people, I don't know, most people are on 410s. Are they Monday through Thursday?
Well, it depends. So I think with Russell's not here, but Michael's here. I think in noxious weed.
Russell's there.
Well, yeah. I didn't want you to give up your chance to say
Sorry, John Ellis is not here.
You can be here, you just can't speak.
See in the crowd, may I have contact with Russell? Shoot. I think Public Works and Noxious Weed for the most part are Monday through Thursday on their 10s. However, appraisers, hi, thank you for raising your hand. Right here. They actually do, they flip it. So she's got 2 days a week right now where she has about half her staff not in the office. So when those holidays hit, she has 4 days a week when half her staff is not in the office. Because for example, the Monday people that have off might take Monday, Tuesday. The Friday people have off might take Thursday, Friday. So, and I believe, I don't want to speak on anyone's behalf, but I believe that causes challenges in far as like responding and trying to get the work on those particular days.
Not to be on.
Go ahead.
I mean, overall, as far as employee satisfaction, because of the 40-hour work week, when you have, those that have the 8-hour days, they're not working a 40-hour work week. But then those that have the 10-hour days, if then we're telling them that they're not gonna get that holiday, they still have to work 40 hours while everybody else is working 32 hours. That's kind of where some of the concern for my 10-hour employees is kind of come into play with that. I mean, if that's the direction that we're looking, then, if everybody's getting an 8-hour holiday, then why would those employees at least get the 8-hour holiday option? That's kind of the question that's kind of come to play. Yes, it is a challenge when we have those holidays and 10-hour employees are gone 2 days. I'm not gonna lie. And say it's not challenging or creating staffing challenges, but it is a benefit that has been in place for a long period of time. I was unaware other departments don't have that option. And so, I mean, I understand why we're where we're at. But that is, that's just, it's a benefit that they've seen of having that flex schedule.
But on the other hand, you and I have discussed your desire to potentially move away from 410s because it causes problems every week when a staff person isn't there on a Friday or Monday. So there is the true other side of this. Yeah, and having the ability of the flexible schedule is a benefit, then not everyone can participate in either.
On the other hand, they've got guys, people that are on a 10, when they get a holiday, they're getting 10 hours. Should we only pay them 8 hours for their holiday? Because if it's not fair for everybody else, then it's not fair that they get 10 hours every holiday, or everybody else only gets 8. So to me, I see it balances out, because there's most holidays, they're getting 10 hours of holiday. Occasionally, they don't get the 8. If you added them up and down all through the year, I'm guessing it's the same amount of hours. It's just distributed differently for them.
It is the same amount of work hours. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And it kind of makes hours and days, right?
Yeah.
They're different measurements of time.
But I think they, without sitting down and doing all the math, but it balances out over the year, I would think. That they're getting 2 hours extra sometimes, and then they're getting 8, and then most of the time they're getting 2 hours extra. Occasionally they're getting 8 hours less.
If I may, I just wanted to comment, when I first heard this proposed policy, it was something I was adamantly opposed. I'm still against it. I do understand the life a little bit better. But one thing that I just want to focus on is when we talk about the flexible 10-hour shift, I think it's very important that we not make it sound like it's just this complete benefit from the employee. It is a two-way street. I can only speak for my department, but having an employee on a 10-hour shift is dramatically affecting us to get our job done quicker. It has reduced my need for overtime, and it gives me the opportunity. The way I utilize my 10-hour employees is flexible, meaning generally, to speak to your answer, they are generally off Monday through Thursday, but none of them are guaranteed to be off Friday. Their time off that week is dictated by the needs of the department and the needs of the county. And so they don't necessarily have a designated day off. Generally, most of the time, it's a Monday through Thursday. So I certainly understand this policy, and we'll work with it. I understand the reason why now a little bit better, because my department works a mixed bag. We're open 5 days a week. And so my 10-hour employees, if they're off that extra holiday, it doesn't create a scheduling conflict for me, as now I understand it does for other departments. But I just want to stress that the 10-hour shifts is not necessarily this overwhelming benefit to the employee. It does really benefit the county tremendously, at least at my department.
I think yours and Public Works, both when they're going out into the county to do work.
Absolutely.
It's definitely a benefit to us too.
And I do also understand that the desire that other departments would like to have that ability, and they don't. And I'm empathetic to that as well. And for that reason, again, I'm opposed against this policy, but I understand. I understand.
Nice situation, yeah.
The way that, the new policy, I do too.
It's okay.
Go ahead, Corey.
I just don't want my department to be left out of the forthcoming conversation as well, because my staff really uses it and benefits from it in the work that we get to do.
We talked about it.
Just as I mentioned today, we have ours set to where there's a general day that each employee has, but that doesn't mean that it's set in stone. And we also make sure that we never have 2 people off at the same time for the standard schedule. Now, things do happen and it might be that way, but we adjust ours, and honestly, we really flexible in how we do that, in that if an employee has a doctor's appointment and it lands on their work day, then 2 employees might trade that day that they are off. So we greatly benefit from it. One, so that, they have appointments and things and so forth, but more so the work that we can get done outside of our hours open to the public, which is where we really see the benefit from it.
So did we have consensus, or do we need a motion on that?
Just keep track of the consensus,
Yeah.
just like you did last time.
I wasn't sure if Catherine was in agreement. I heard the other two, but
Well, I like to, I hear the flexibility part, and I think that's important in a lot of departments.
But I don't think that goes away. That's what I've talked about with, well, particularly with Michael, that this isn't a scheduling policy. It's a holiday pay policy. And so your flexibility does not change.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's key. And because we're talking about one person working one job, it gets kind of mixed together.
Mhm.
But they all are responsible and have the purview to schedule per your direction as they need to do for their services.
Well, in that situation, I would agree with this.
Okay, right. Okay, 6 minutes. Page 31, I don't believe is contentious. This is the discipline policy and procedures, and they were updated to what we have already discussed. And that the commissioners agreed to by consensus. And the same thing with page 33, which is the dispute resolution, formerly known as the appeal process. That both of those were updated after the draft of this and were sent separately to department heads for their review as well. And I didn't get comments back with concerns on either of those. Okay. Go ahead.
Jumping back a page, since you didn't have listed, then I have
Oh,
a
sure.
question.
Yes.
On 30, the paid time off for voting, you said in accordance with state law, it's state law, you have to give someone off time for voting.
Not to vote, yeah, it is. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, we can recommend that they schedule it.
I mean, I'm not saying I have
Yeah.
a problem with it. I didn't know it was a state law. I mean, I never got it, but.
Yeah.
Hey, bring a client.
There's the lawyer's answer.
I figured out how to do it myself.
Yeah. From 7 to 7.
How dare you? How dare you think for yourself?
Yeah, and in all fairness, most of our employees do figure out how to do it on their breaks or before or after work as well. Yeah, it's probably a little bit challenging for like those working election days, so they might have to go during the day.
The people.
Well, obviously, there's early.
That's the beauty of advanced voting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so page 35 may be a bit of a discussion. So nothing in the dress code or professional appearance policy has changed, except we have proposed to go with the policy that the health department has already had in writing and that many of our department heads are already using. So it had added a nose stud as an acceptable piercing along with earrings. And it has added visible tattoos not deemed offensive. And we can talk about either one of those points. Right now, we have many professionals who have a tattoo maybe here or somewhere that is visible, or an ankle, a foot, it's visible, not offensive and has not become a problem, but we would not allow face, neck, anything that the department head would deem offensive. Which is kind of a difficult gauge, but that's
a very subjective.
It is very subjective, yeah. Yeah, but we're not, right now it says no visible tattoos and we're not following that either. So it's
visible. Yeah.
It's difficult. So that's one thing. And the other thing is the nose studs. It's not proposing to have all kinds of piercing and spacers and et cetera, but it is proposed to allow the one nose stud, which is, like I said, was adapted from the health department's current dress code.
Because what, didn't find it where it actually is in here.
Yeah, so it is actually, this is the draft of the new change. So we're asking what it is currently.
Yeah.
Currently, it is only allowing one set of earrings.
That was my other question.
Yes.
Is there a number of earrings?
Yeah.
Restricted?
Yeah, so not in this current proposal, because this current proposal doesn't say that. The current proposal currently says open display of body piercing jewelry other than earrings and a nose stud is unacceptable unless specifically approved by the department head or official. I do have, because I mean, just to be frank, Rich and I have had very robust conversations about this. So I do have some other proposed verbiage. If you would like to see something a little more specific or different,
Bring that one back, yeah, with all
Do you have some direction on what you'd like to see differently?
I don't know, is there a restriction on the number of earrings, my thought, I mean,
Two?
I don't know, two, I mean, yeah, two, but some have them all the way around their ear.
Yeah.
But
Well, the one
there's a lot of
proposal is-
things that people have that I don't approve, but that doesn't mean they don't give them into here, but that's a
Right.
personal preference.
Well, that's what we're trying to sort out, right?
Yeah,
Personal
what's
preference
right, I-
versus ability to do the job. And we
Yeah.
don't want people who can't do their customer service job. All of our job is a service to Riley County. So if it becomes such an issue that
It's a distraction.
that it's a distraction, someone's not really able to do what they came into the county to do, that's definitely a problem. My thought is that our current line of acceptable tattoos and piercings has moved significantly since 2012, and I would say significantly since 2020. So what you see and what you are able to work with in the labor market as a whole, it's very difficult to hire someone without any tattoo
Right.
or a single piercing. That doesn't mean you can't do that. You can do it, and there are companies
And I
that
don't,
lay the
the
line.
tattoo thing, I don't have a problem with that, the visible.
Okay.
Because I know there are a lot of people
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
ankles or wrists and different things.
So maybe,
But what's offensive is gonna be
I agree.
will be a battle probably.
So I do have from another source, I have visible tattoos deemed offensive or distracting by the department head must be covered. This includes tattoos that contain offensive words, messages, slogans, or pictures, including but not limited to those displaying nudity, sexual acts, gender, race, religion, disability, or national origin, and or may be perceived to be gang related, shall be covered or not visible while on duty. So I could expand the tattoo policy.
But you said something about face and neck, but is that considered offensive?
I know.
Me personally, I don't know whether
Right.
I don't know.
We're also at 10:50 here,
It's
so
time for bid opening.
yeah, we have a bid opening.
So, okay.
Okay, I'll see you again.
Say by the bid opening.
I do want to hand out, this is not for now, these are the procedure manuals, which you'll see then once we get through the policy manual, so I just printed. Yeah, it's just a picture for you. And yours is on your desk, Richard. Thanks. You are.
Yeah.
It's what Harley Smith is very well. Yeah, if lots of people would have it, I can't understand it, that's.
Okay. The bid opening for asphalt overlay. One bid. Sure.
Mine goes out all the time.
Oh, I know. They're so fast anymore.
I don't know if there's there's supposedly a setting.
No, he changed the settings.
I tell you, Corey controls all.
Don't make
He
me mad.
changed the settings.
Won't work at all.
He changed yours to go faster.
No, he changed all of them to shorten up.
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, Greg, he told everyone he changed.
I know, and he told, I have.
Okay.
Yep, bid.
Okay. One bid, it's from Schilling, here in Manhattan, showing, $1,602,010.
Yes, we were harassing you.
We're harassing
Waco, this is
Shooting
not-
them in the back to distract me, so I can't hear what harassment I'm getting. Is HR still? Brittany, you got record?
Yeah.
I'm not HR.
What?
It was, they eliminated 10.
How much was that 1 million left?
Eliminated 10 hours. That's done.
Guys, we're in a bid
We're in
opening.
a bid opening.
We're in a bid
here. Can we
opening.
finish? It's, $1,602,010. And, proposed start date of May 1st this year. 30 working days.
Bid from Schilling Construction, Manhattan, total. It'll be at $1,602,010. Proposed start date of May 1st, 24, and 30 working days.
You.
Okay, well, I would make a motion to return that to staff for their recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to turn the bids to staff for further analysis and recommendation. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Thank you, Commissioners. Next we have versus 11.
Okay.
Thank you. Your turn. Answer away.
Okay, where'd Corey go?
Yeah.
He took off, didn't he?
You're smart. You like
He ran for it.
He ran for it.
That's why I'm running down the hall.
Are your screens flickering? No, I can't even get mine to turn back on. So that's great.
I can't even put you in your.
Now you done it. You made it. Oh, there we go. It's- There. I didn't want to turn back on.
I keep having to put it.
I know you got me.
I got my password. You have to put that in. It's a pain. I finally got my phone set up with facial recognition.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know how to do that. My daughter, I called her when how do I get this done?
That was my battery last down, you know?
Oh.
Cause I never plug it in. It always last
Really?
meeting, the battery must be dying.
Uh-oh.
It didn't last through the meeting. Excuse me, come on.
Have your stats here, Rich.
Did you notice walking up to the building, the window's gone?
Yeah,
No.
Yeah.
I saw the barricade out there.
So they're fun with those metal frames to get out of the masonry.
Yeah, those are,
I've done that before.
that come out easy.
And they got them out of the hole, out of the side hallway one too, that great big one on the hallway. It was letting in a lot of air conditioning yesterday.
I think Clancy made the right choice to.
Yeah, I'm sure removing those metal frames was not quiet.
Oh, yeah, that takes some pounding. The frames grouted.
And knock
this,
on-
I'm sure they're grouted solid.
Knock on wood, they have done it so far. They have one more above the front entry and haven't disturbed any of the exterior brick.
Yeah. Some of the stuff they do. Some of the stuff we do at stay and get looking to update that. It's like bills they're working on, what they spend time on.
Sometimes you're better off not looking at it.
Instead of worthwhile stuff.
Yeah. Well, that short-term rental thing for those people that don't comply sure is a problem.
Yeah, on the one hand, like I say, when they said, oh, the state's gonna set rules, I thought, oh, great. Well, it's the rules Johnson County needs, not the same that
Right.
Collins County, but some kind of an enforcement mechanism.
Right,
needs
the
to be
rules they don't
made.
need to set, but giving counties the authority to do something, kind of like we're trying to do with the nuisance.
Yeah.
You know, properties is the same thing. We're not saying spell out the rules, but give us authority once we establish our own rules.
You know, I keep saying this new phenomenon over the last few years that we gotta adjust to.
Mm-hmm.
Just haven't, yeah.
Unfortunately, it's always because of that small percentage that doesn't comply.
It's I think it's the 10, but it's really about the 5% that we make the rules for.
Yep,
No, like I said, the rules are made for honest people.
that's the same way the personnel policies were going through. It's the
Yeah.
same reason. It's majority of the jobs in my life, there was no personnel policy manual. You just showed up and got work done.
Yeah.
And we survived just fine.
We also got, I'd say everybody 6 or 7, 6 holidays.
Mm-hmm. You're up.
Good morning, afternoon, whatever we want to call it. It's kind of that transition. So, Commissioners, I'm here to talk to you regarding property tax exemption in Riley County. And this has been kind of a a very collaborative effort of the clerk's office and my office. Additionally, I do just kind of want to throw it out there, GIS has been instrumental in helping us provide some visuals. So Jacob over there has been fantastic. There's a lot of communication back and forth so that I could bring you some of the visuals today. So over here and I've worked really closely together and Rich, just kind of discussing how to present this information and why, you know, kind of the why is it important that you understand this? So this presentation is put together to visually show the makeup of Riley County's tax base. As it relates to Riley County as a whole. So all tax exemptions are constitutionally and statutorily granted in the state of Kansas. We understand the importance and benefits of having these exempt businesses and organizations here in Riley County. I mean, as you heard at the intergovernmental luncheon, K-State brings a lot of economic benefits to the Manhattan region, you know, and jobs, sales, local and state taxes, those types of things. So this presentation is just to help understand, you know, kind of the why we get those phone calls and those conversations that people are constantly stating, you're taxing me out of my home. You're taxing me out of my home. And in the appraiser's office, it's our job to value as of January 1 based on the market. What does the market say these homes are worth? And the reason for that is just to ensure that equitable distribution of the tax burden. And so that's kind of why we wanted to put this presentation together. Like I said, a very collaborative effort of our two departments, just so you can get a visual, because Riley County is very unique in how we're set up. And so this very first page on here is just showing of the total acreage in Riley County, 27% of the acreage is exempt property. And so, you know, just try to provide you this visual, just so you can kind of see what we're working with. Of those exempt properties in Riley County, these are some of the larger acreage-wise exempt properties. We've got Fort Riley, all other exemptions, the Tuttle Creek. So Fort Riley and Tuttle Creek make up the larger acreage-wise portion. And then you have all other exemptions in K-State University are right around the same acreage-wise. And so acreage-wise, very, very minimal. On Fort Riley, just over 80% of Fort Riley sits in Riley County, while the other, you know, just under 20% sits in Geary County. And so it's just important just to kind of see some of this visually. For 2023, that's another thing. This presentation is kind of a blend of 2023 valuation and 2024, based on the time frame of when some of this was being put together. I've got some updated 24 information in here too. And so this next chart is just kind of a breakdown of the exempt property valuation how much of it is made up by the different organizations. And so one of the things to also recognize, so right now as a whole, of the total appraised value in 2023, 41% of the appraised value was exempt. Now, that number is probably fairly inaccurate when you consider we don't have any of the buildings on the fort picked up. In addition, as far as some of that data we may have on K-State relating to those buildings, very likely underlisted. And so just to recognize that if we had all of that information, that percentage of exemption would likely just climb.
So for the fort, it's basically that just land value?
For the most part, we do have a small amount of building picked up on one of the parcels, and that's specifically related to mortgages that were filed several years ago when there was a whole new subdivision that was going in. We were trying to get historically the ability to list that information, make it taxable. They ran up against a brick wall when it came to that in the United States government, and so we could not collect taxes on those property. And so we still were able to list overall based on the mortgages that were filed an appraised value. And so we have some of that, but we most definitely don't have any of the historic housing, all of the, the buildings, everything that's out there, it's not listed.
So just it's just some of the housing and not even
all of it.
And all the other buildings.
Or the hospital.
The hospital that has a high value?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do want to point out one thing historically. The reason that stopped is because the appraiser's office was looking at that. And there was a change in state law that was directly related to that. I've never seen so many uniforms in the State House before or since. You wouldn't believe it. And it was done very fast. It was some of the speediest legislation that's ever been passed. It made those things no longer subject to assessment, that new project. So, just some background, because you need to know that's where that came from.
Well, I know that's when I was working with the housing. The housing came and they said, yeah, one of the things is it's going to be housing's all going to be taxed, but it didn't last long.
It did not.
It went away very fast.
And that's what I could find in all of the historic data that I was sifting through.
I'm not bemoaning that. I'm just telling you, you have context.
Yeah.
And so this next chart, you guys saw a little bit of this in my staff update last month, but this is the 2024 valuation after notices were sent out. Now, obviously, that once all of the appeals are conducted, when we certify in June, that number is going to change. But of 24,816 parcels, the total valuation was $9,991,396,910. The assessment rates, I went ahead and added that to this sheet too. So you can see, we all know residential is 11.5, the agricultural land's 30%, because ag land is valued not at market value, but at use value. And so they have a little higher assessment rate. Ag improvements are at 25%. That's a typo. I apologize for that. 25% on the agricultural improvements. Vacant land is 12%, not-for-profit is 12%. The commercial and industrial is 25%, and all other real property is 30%. And so of that total valuation, 48% of that is made up by residential. 40% of that is made up by the exempt, and 8% of that is commercial. The not-for-profit farm sites and ag make up a portion of it too, but you don't quite see as much of that impact in the total valuation. What's interesting next is it kind of leads us to this next slide on the property types in Riley County. So this chart just kind of paints a big picture. We have 27% of the acreage in Riley County represents exempt property. Just under 50% of the acreage in Riley County represents the agricultural land. And just over 16% represents farm sites. It's very important to Riley County as a culture and to the state and Midwest, preserve ag. That's a priority. That's something that's in our comprehensive plan. That's something that we work hard to preserve. And so you can see that here in what makes up the acreage. And so we have 3%, just over 3% of the acreage is relating to your residential, and 1%, just over 1% for commercial, just over 1% for vacant, And then the other not-for-profit and utility make up less than 10% together. And so this is just a nice visual to really show you, what our tax base looks like when you're looking at acreage. And that kind of comes into that next play too, when you see where is that tax burden falling? Who's carrying that weight when it comes to the taxes? So, I mean, I'm sure you all know the total local budget less revenue divided by the assessed value is how we get to that tax rate, and that tax rate is represented as the mill levy. And so of the appraised value, we have $803,019,538 of assessed value. As we valued when we sent those notices out. 69% of the tax burden is falling on the residential, 24% on commercial, 3% on the farm side, 3% on ag, about 1% on vacant. Some of these rounded up and down. So, right around that'll make up that total. And so you can see even more clearly here, ag and farm. I mean, this is where that's what's making up. Well, that's who's carrying the tax burden. And so this type of information is very important, when we have to consider, exemption. I mean, or programs where we will not collect tax dollars relating to growth. We need growth, obviously. The more homes there are, the more commercial businesses are, that spreads out that burden over time. And so development helps with that. And so I just wanted to show you visually just some of those challenges that we face when it comes to that tax burden. And so I'm not sure if you have any questions relating to anything here that I showed you.
Just, I think I know, but the difference between farm and ag.
The farm
is where there's a residence on it.
That's correct.
Okay.
Ag is just going to represent agricultural land, or if there's maybe a ag improvement only out there, that would be represented with the ag. But farm has a house. There's at least a house. Still, that's why I made them
That's
look
what I was,
green.
yes, that's why.
Yeah. Because they're still ag land
Yeah.
with those farm sites. It's listed a little differently. So it's a good visual on kind of what makes up Riley County as a whole, and where that tax burden is falling.
Okay. This is interesting. I like.
Yeah, this is.
It's a different way of
Good
looking
stuff.
at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
it's,
information.
yeah, I really like just being able to visually see, Manhattan wouldn't be Manhattan without K-State, without the board, we, in these entities that make up, the county. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rich, do I just close it?
You're fine. Yep, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, well, that was it. Waiting in the meeting. I don't have anything else. Okay,
I don't either.
take a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the March 28th meeting of the Raleigh County Commission.
Oh, second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the March 28th meeting of the Riley County Commission. All in favor?
Aye.